Japan is currently a highly developed nation, with an agricultural industry worth more than 150 billion USDs each year, and it has become one of the world's leading models for high-standard agriculture. But how did a country where 80% of the land is covered by steep mountains, with extremely limited arable land, and that is frequently struck by earthquakes, powerful typhoons, and tsunamis, capable of wiping out entire coastal areas within minutes, manage to build such an extraordinary agricultural system? And why is the whole world still learning from this country's agricultural model? Today, let's step inside one of the most remarkable agricultural systems in the world with Terran Works. The starting point for entering the world of Japan's premium agriculture is the peach orchards of Fukushima. Some small boxes of peaches are sold for more than 100 USD because inside are not ordinary fruits, but the result of an almost flawless cultivation and quality control process from the moment the fruit is still young until it leaves the orchard. On hillsides with large temperature differences between day and night, peach trees accumulate more sugar, creating a rich sweetness, a delicate aroma, and flesh so soft it almost melts in the mouth. But what truly defines the value of Fukushima peaches lies in the meticulous cultivation techniques. Farmers deliberately thin out most of the young fruits, keeping only those with the best shape and position so that all nutrients are concentrated into a small number of premium peaches. Each fruit is then wrapped in an individual paper bag to protect it from insects, heavy rain, and direct sunlight that could damage the delicate skin. In many modern farms, drip irrigation systems, soil moisture sensors, and temperature and light monitoring devices are used to adjust water supply according to each stage of development. When harvest season arrives, the peaches are still picked entirely by hand because they are too delicate for the heavy harvesting machines used for industrial crops. Workers gently twist the stem, place each peach into a soft-lined tray, and transport them to the sorting area. There, slow-moving conveyor belts, optical cameras, electronic scales, and sugar content measuring devices inspect the size, color, weight, and internal quality of every fruit. Only the most perfect peaches are placed into premium packaging, turning Fukushima peaches into a symbol of precision, patience, and the spirit of Japanese agriculture. If Fukushima peaches leave an impression through their softness and delicacy, then Nikkori pears captivate buyers with their enormous size, perfectly rounded shape, and surprisingly juicy flesh. Some fruits weigh more than 1 kilogram and are packaged like luxury gifts because each pear is not simply agricultural produce, but the result of an entire season of patient care in tightly controlled orchards. What makes Nikkori unique begins with the way Japanese farmers design the entire tree canopy around each individual pear. The branches are pulled horizontally and fixed onto trellis systems, forming a wide, green, roof-like surface that allows the fruit to receive even sunlight and prevents overcrowding among the leaves. As the pears begin to grow, farmers constantly inspect the spacing between fruits, removing those that develop unevenly, have weak stems, or are positioned where collisions may occur. For pears with the potential to reach exceptional size, support strings or lifting nets may be used to prevent the heavy weight from bending the branches. When harvest season arrives, Nikkori pears are not picked all at once. Growers observe the skin color, firmness, and weight of each fruit before deciding it is ready to harvest. Workers typically use short ladders or orchard carts, carefully lifting each pear with both hands, gently twisting the stem, and immediately placing it into padded trays. The pears are then transported to sorting facilities, where every fruit is weighed and inspected for shape, scratches, and consistency before packaging. It is this slow yet highly precise process that has turned Nikkori into a symbol of refinement and meticulousness in Japanese agriculture. If premium fruit orchards showcase the meticulous nature of Japanese agriculture, then the seafood industry reveals a world that is even harsher and far more precise. Surrounded by the sea and located near one of the richest fishing grounds on the planet, Japan has long transformed seafood into a core part of a food economy worth tens of billions of dollars every year. Although the fishing industry now accounts for less than 1% of the nation's GDP, Japan is still regarded as one of the world's leading powers in premium seafood, where fish are not simply caught for consumption, but raised and handled like luxury products. At famous auction markets such as Toyosu Market in Tokyo, a single high-quality bluefin tuna can sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars, making it one of the most expensive foods on Earth. In Japan, the modern fishing industry operates more like an industrial system in the open ocean than a traditional fishing trade. Hundreds of massive sea cages are anchored offshore in regions such as Kagoshima and Ehime, where strong ocean currents continuously carry oxygen-rich clean water through the farming systems. Fish are carefully controlled in terms of feed intake, growth rate, and fat content in order to produce meat with an almost perfectly consistent quality. Some farms even use underwater cameras and sensor systems to monitor fish populations in real time. Meanwhile, in offshore wild capture operations, Japanese fishing vessels are renowned for their extremely strict handling procedures. Bluefin tuna, snow crab, and yellowtail are often brought aboard and processed almost immediately using the ikejime technique, preserving the freshness, meat color, and flavor in a near-perfect state before the seafood reaches high-end sushi restaurants. All of that precision ultimately serves a single goal: to create dishes of nearly perfect quality. In Japan, sashimi is not merely food, but is regarded as a form of craftsmanship. In particular, Oma bluefin tuna from Aomori is considered one of the most expensive fish in the world. The highest quality specimens can sell for more than $1 million at early year auctions at Toyosu Market. What makes them exceptional is not only their massive size, but also the finely marbled fat evenly distributed throughout the deep red flesh, creating a melt-in-the-mouth texture similar to Wagyu beef. After being brought back to port, Oma bluefin tuna are rapidly chilled at extremely low temperatures to preserve the color of the flesh and the internal fat marbling. Top sushi chefs in Japan often use long, specialized knives to slice the fish along the grain, preserving its delicate texture and preventing the fatty layers from breaking apart. The otoro cut from the belly, the fattiest portion, is typically reserved for high-end sushi and sashimi, where each slice almost dissolves the moment it touches the tongue, delivering a rich yet clean and refined flavor characteristic of Japanese tuna. From sushi and sashimi to those near-melting otoro slices, Japan's seafood industry has transformed seafood into a globally recognized symbol of luxury. If the seafood industry demonstrates Japan's precision out at sea, then shiitake mushroom forests reveal how the Japanese transform nature into a multi-billion-dollar luxury industry. What surprises many people is that certain wild shiitake varieties in Japan can sell for more than $100 per kilogram, rivaling the price of many premium seafood products. Unlike mass production models in many other countries, Japan has turned mushroom cultivation into a blend of forest ecosystems, precise farming techniques, and a philosophy of quality over quantity. Unlike industrial mushroom farms that rely on sawdust substrates and sealed greenhouses, many premium shiitake mushrooms in Japan are still cultivated directly on natural oak logs in humid forests with cool climates. Farmers select logs with suitable diameters, drill small holes into them, and inoculate mushroom spawn before placing the logs under forest canopies, where they develop slowly over many months. This slow growth process allows the mushroom flesh to become thicker, richer in umami, and develop a texture that is often described as meat-like. Some farms even simulate natural cold rain conditions to trigger synchronized fruiting, turning entire forests into a kind of biological factory that operates according to nature's rhythm. After harvesting, Japanese shiitake undergo extremely strict grading before being processed through freeze-drying or packaged fresh to preserve their distinctive aroma. In Japanese cuisine, shiitake is not just an ingredient but functions almost like a premium natural flavor enhancer, appearing in hot pots, ramen, steamed rice, and traditional soups. High-grade dried shiitake is now widely exported to markets such as the United States, Singapore, and Hong Kong, as well as Japanese restaurants worldwide. Thanks to its strong umami flavor, high nutritional value, and rich content of antioxidants and beta-glucans, Japanese shiitake is not simply sold as mushrooms, but as a luxury product born from the country's forests. Not only seafood or fruit, even green tea in Japan has been elevated into an agricultural art form. From a traditional ingredient deeply tied to Japanese tea ceremony, matcha has now become a global trend with a multi-billion-dollar market. Every day, millions of cups of matcha lattes, iced blended matcha drinks, and matcha-based products are sold across the United States, Europe, and throughout Asia. In particular, high-grade ceremonial matcha from regions such as Kyoto and Shizuoka can sell for hundreds of USD per kilogram. What fascinates the world is not only its signature vibrant green color, but also its gentle, umami-rich flavor, extremely high antioxidant content, and the sense of healthy luxury that Japanese matcha delivers. Unlike ordinary green tea, Japanese matcha is cultivated through a highly specialized process. About 3 to 4 weeks before harvest, tea fields in areas such as Uji or Shizuoka are completely covered with shade nets that block up to 90% of sunlight. This process forces the tea plants to increase chlorophyll and amino acid production, resulting in deeper green leaves and a naturally sweeter, smoother taste profile. Afterwards, only the youngest leaves are carefully harvested by hand or with precision cutting machines before being quickly steamed and dried to prevent oxidation. Finally, the most refined leaves are slowly stone ground using granite mills over several hours to produce an ultra-fine matcha powder, almost like dust. The grinding process is so slow that a traditional stone mill may produce only about 30 to 40 grams of matcha per hour. From a traditional ingredient used in the ancient tea ceremony, matcha has now appeared across nearly every segment of premium food products. In Japan, matcha is still commonly used in traditional tea ceremony rituals, where every movement of preparation carries deep ceremonial meaning. However, on the international market, matcha has become a symbol of the healthy luxury, food, and beverage trend. From matcha lattes, matcha ice cream, mochi, chocolate, and cheesecake to matcha-flavored soba and ramen, the distinctive taste of this tea now appears in millions of products every year. What sets Japanese matcha apart is its subtle umami flavor, gentle sweetness in the aftertaste, and a clean, refined sensation that few other green teas can achieve. This combination of cultural tradition, health benefits, and premium branding has made matcha one of Japan's most successful agricultural exports on the global stage. Interestingly, Japan and the United States both have highly advanced agricultural industries, but they have developed in almost opposite directions. The United States focuses on massive scale and high output, with thousands of hectares of farmland and mechanized systems capable of harvesting hundreds of tons of crops per day. In contrast, Japan follows a less but extremely high-value model. For example, a kilogram of peaches in the US typically costs only a few dollars in supermarkets, while premium Fukushima peach boxes from Japan can exceed 100 USD. The beef industry shows a similar contrast. The US is one of the world's largest beef producers, but Wagyu A5 beef can sell for many times higher due to its extremely high marbling ratio and a production process that is almost laboratory-like in precision. Even green tea, a product common in both countries, reflects this gap in value. While industrial matcha can be produced at large scale and sold cheaply, ceremonial-grade matcha from Japan can reach hundreds of USD per kilogram. If the United States has turned agriculture into a large-scale production industry, Japan has transformed it into a fusion of science, luxury, and craftsmanship. What makes Japanese agriculture truly unique is not the abundance of land or natural resources, but the way the country transforms environmental harshness into an almost perfectly refined production system. In a nation that frequently faces earthquakes, tsunamis, and has limited arable land, Japan still manages to produce agricultural goods and food products that rank among the most valuable in the world. Amami Oshima is a subtropical island located at the southernmost edge of Japan, regarded as one of the most ecologically unique regions in the world. With a warm subtropical climate, more than 80% of its area covered by natural forest, and an isolation of hundreds of kilometers from the mainland, Amami-Oshima is home to many endemic species found nowhere else on Earth. But this ideal environment also nurtured a long-standing threat, the habu snake. This large pit viper typically grows over 1 meter in length, moves quickly, reacts with extreme sensitivity, and tends to strike with little to no warning. For decades, habu bites were not only a nightmare for Amami-Oshima, but a major problem across many parts of southern Japan. Statistics illustrate the severity of the situation. In 1980 alone, approximately 400 snakebite cases were recorded, and some of the victims did not survive. Each habu bite can inject roughly 2 to 3 times more venom than many cobra species, and it is this high venom volume, combined with its powerful necrotic toxicity, that often leads to severe injuries. What made the problem even worse was that for a long time there was virtually no anti-venom available. And even when anti-venom began to appear, accessing it presented another challenge. The anti-venom was produced in liquid form and required strict storage conditions, making it impossible to keep in remote rural areas that lacked electricity and proper medical infrastructure. Ironically, it was precisely these rural areas where snakebite incidents occurred most frequently. Extending electrical grids and building proper medical storage systems for every small community required enormous amounts of time and cost. In this context, people were forced to search for another way out, a solution that seemed simpler, more natural, and more effective. And it was from this point that a pivotal decision was made. Under mounting pressure, Japan came up with what seemed like a genius solution: introducing a snake-eating animal immune to venom. And as so often happens, humanity's ambition to fix nature opened the door to a chain of consequences far beyond anyone's control. In 1979, around 30 mongooses, small, agile, and famous for their snake hunting abilities, were released onto Amami-Oshima Island. In addition to controlling habu snakes, these perfect warriors were also expected to reduce the rat population, delivering a double benefit to local communities. However, mongooses are not native to Japan. Their natural habitat stretches across South and Southeast Asia, from India, Bangladesh, Bhutan, and Nepal to Pakistan. The ecosystem of Amami-Oshima, isolated and fragile, was completely unprepared to receive a new predator like this. Just over a decade later, the consequences began to surface. By 1993, Japan's Ministry of the Environment officially sounded the alarm, as the mongoose population grew far faster than anticipated. And by the year 2000, their numbers on the island had exploded to around 10,000 individuals, a figure that made it clear the original plan had gone seriously off course. Did the number of snakes decrease? Statistically speaking, the answer is yes, but mongooses were not the cause of that change. In reality, they showed little interest in venomous prey, a major paradox because in theory, mongooses seemed like the perfect solution for dealing with habu snakes. They are famous for their speed and quick reflexes, capable of confronting cobras, a species closely related to the habu. And they possess special acetylcholine receptors that make them less sensitive to venom, allowing them to survive even after being bitten. Over millions of years of evolution, mongooses also developed specialized skills for killing snakes, from precise reflexes to sharp teeth, making them almost the ideal snake killers. But in nature, theory does not determine behavior. Mongooses are active during the day, while habu snakes are nocturnal, meaning the two species rarely encounter each other. And even when opportunities arise, hunting snakes remains an energy-intensive and risky choice, especially when easier and safer prey like rats and rabbits are always available. Hunting snakes in this context is no different from choosing fine dining when fast food is right in front of you. and the fine dining can still bite back at any moment. As a result, mongooses proved almost useless at controlling snakes, but extremely effective at reproducing and spreading across the island. When it became clear that mongooses could not solve the snake problem, Japan was forced to confront an even harsher reality. The mongooses themselves had become the new problem. As a result, in 2000, the Japanese government officially launched a large-scale program to reduce the mongoose population on Amami-Oshima Island. Over the following 2 decades, approximately 32,000 individuals were captured. The last recorded mongoose was documented in April 2018, and in the 6 years that followed, no further signs of their presence were reported. Based on long-term monitoring data, the government proudly announced on September 3, 2024, that the non-native mongoose population on the island had been completely eradicated. From a conservation perspective, this was good news, though perhaps not for the mongooses themselves. But the real question remained, how did Japan manage to do it? The answer was far from simple. The road to success was filled with trial and error. At first, the measures were relatively limited, such as placing traps along roads, but these proved largely ineffective. The traps were hardly attractive enough to lure mongooses. Only when it became clear that the problem could not be solved with a single measure did the strategy begin to change. Japan adopted a more comprehensive approach, combining specialized traps, poison bait, scent-based attractants, and various monitoring methods. Even trained canine dogs were deployed to search for any remaining individuals. It was this coordinated and persistent effort, sustained over many years, that ultimately brought the campaign to its conclusion. As the mongoose eradication campaign expanded, the approach changed completely. The initial traps were quickly replaced by specially designed traps, precisely tailored to the shape and size of mongooses, ensuring that other animals would not be accidentally caught. On monitoring charts, the number of traps increased in parallel with the gradual decline of the mongoose population, a sign that the new strategy was beginning to take effect. This campaign did not rely on technology alone. Local communities were also mobilized. Since 2005, mongoose hunting teams made up of residents and volunteers have continuously trekked through forests and mountains to set traps and track signs of their presence. According to estimates, Japan committed more than $300 million to this campaign, a massive cost in money, effort, and time, all for a single goal: the complete eradication of the mongoose population from the island. This led many people to ask, was it really necessary to go this far? Could the mongooses not simply be left to exist? The answer is no. Because instead of controlling snakes as originally hoped, mongooses quickly became a serious threat to the native ecosystem. They began hunting endemic species on the island, most severely affecting the Amami rabbit, a species currently threatened with extinction and often referred to as a living fossil, as it is the last remaining remnant of an ancient Asian rabbit lineage. Once widely distributed across the mainland, today this rabbit exists only on 2 small islands, and the arrival of mongooses drastically reduced the chances of encountering them. Not stopping there, mongooses also caused severe damage to the Ryukyu rat and many other endemic species. In total, around 15 native species were directly affected. Agriculture did not escape the consequences either. Mongooses hunted farm poultry, ate fruit in agricultural fields, and also spread diseases to species they did not directly kill. Within just 20 years, the habitat of some small animal species on the island, an area recognized by UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, was reduced by as much as 40%. All of this points to a clear reality. Introducing mongooses to Japan's small islands was a destructive mistake. Island ecosystems are inherently fragile, and native species there are not accustomed to facing mammalian predators, leaving them with little ability to defend themselves. In theory, the introduction of a new predator can disrupt ecosystems anywhere, but on islands, the consequences are always far more severe, especially when that predator is a mongoose, a species that will eat almost anything it can catch. It took nearly 25 years to completely eliminate mongooses from Amami Oshima, and almost half a century to bring the entire project to a close. Although killing such a large number of mongooses may sound extremely cruel, from the perspective of native species conservation, Japan made the right choice. With invasive species, time is the decisive factor. If they are allowed to spread and reproduce excessively, removal later becomes far more difficult, and in some cases, virtually impossible. The fact that no mongooses have been detected on the island indicates that Japan acted within an extremely narrow window, often referred to by ecologists as before it was too late. Worldwide, there have been only 9 cases in which mongooses were successfully eradicated after being introduced. And Amami Oshima is the only case in which this was achieved on a large island, an exceptionally rare achievement in the history of invasive species control. Meanwhile, the problem of habu snakebites has also gradually been brought under control. By 2020, the number of snakebite cases had dropped to around 60 per year. However, as mentioned earlier, this change was not due to mongooses, but rather to community prevention measures and improved access to antivenom, which helped eliminate fatalities. In fact, since 1992, there has not been a single recorded death caused by habu snakes. The story of Amami Oshima reveals an important truth. Intervening in nature is never simple. A change that seems small can trigger a chain reaction lasting decades. Quick fixes often come with a very high price. Amami Oshima is not an exception in history. It is a version of a tragedy that was stopped in time. Hawaii with mongooses and Australia with cane toads both began with the same arrogant genius idea of human intervention, only to end with ecosystems permanently damaged. The difference is that Amami recognized the mistake while the door was still ajar, proving that prevention is always cheaper and easier than repair. Amami succeeded, but only at the cost of immense time, money, and effort. Today, the techniques developed on Amami Oshima are being applied in many parts of the world, including island chains in Japan and Southeast Asia, New Zealand, Hawaii, the Galapagos Islands, the Caribbean, as well as numerous ecological reserves in Africa and Europe, places where invasive species have caused or continue to cause severe ecological imbalance. Together, these efforts have helped shape a global playbook for invasive species control, proving that while ecological damage can spread quickly, decisive action, taken early enough, can still stop it. And Amami Oshima is not the only place where humans have made mistakes with mongooses. It is simply one of the very few places that recognize the mistake in time and persistently work to correct it before it was too late. In the end, in nature, mistakes do not disappear. They simply wait to return with higher interest.